cutscene. Oh wait, well, where am I? Oh god, was that a dream? Oh, one day. What time is it? I wonder where Bobbertos is. It's like 3 in the afternoon. Oh god, I'm really overslept. Where the hell is he? Hello, Bobbertos, are you there? Man? Yo, again, answer machine. Where the hell is Bobbertos? I wonder what he even does in the middle of the day. Now I think about it, Bobbertos doesn't do anything other than exist in my videos. I don't even think I've seen him out of context. I wonder what he does in his free time.
Bobbertos here. Get out of my way. My name has 3 B's, which is why I beat you in the A. 1 vs 1 me on Club Penguin. Lololololol. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. You wanna fight? Noob? No, didn't think so.
A real ray of sunshine, aren't you?
I'll taste you, bro. Get no-scoped. Out my way, scrubs. This whole team sucks. Do any of you even keybind? Do yourselves a favor and AFK. Shut up. 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 Here's a tip. Uninstall. It'll make life easier.
He probably sits in his room all day and watches Netflix, let's be fair. I'd probably do that too if I had the time. Oh, I wonder if there's a career in that. Watching Netflix all day. I'm pretty sure there is. No, we need to internet that. Go to the Googles. Let's just watch the video. Cue credit scroll thing. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? It's Lor-Online here again today with another video, and today I'm going to be doing the top 10 Knights of the Fallen Empire and Knights of the Eternal Throne chapters. I hope you enjoy the video.
Starting with number 10.
Starting off our list today with number 10, we have the Knights of the Fallen Empire chapter 16, the Battle of Odessen. For those of you who don't know, at the very end of this chapter, you fight the boss Archon himself, and during the boss fight, you get some very interesting mechanics, and I like the fact that they've sort of added a operation aspect to solo play. I'm sure that annoys a fair few people because operations are quite difficult, and having these sorts of mechanics where you have to deflect force beams and you have to sort of knock Archon over and do these interrupts is a little bit complicated at first. But for those of you who are huge Operation fans like myself, it really does stand out and it definitely makes the chapter feel really engaging. In addition to the Archon boss fight, we also have a few mini-bosses throughout the actual chapter itself, such as a droid called KJ931. This droid also had great mechanics. I like this little cross AoE he had. And on top of all of that as well, if we put bosses to one side for a little bit, the narrative story arc for this chapter was exceptional. I like how it sort of summarized Knights of the Fallen Empire in general, and it sort of all the decisions you made basically throughout the entirety of the Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion all linked together really well here. For example, if you pissed off KOTFE too much, he betrays you and steals the gravestone, and you have this entire fallout with him. If you get on really well with Senya and Archon, they both survive and everything works out really well, and both of them together go off and they flee to Voss, and everything is all good that end. And of course, there are other issues, like you don't fall out with Lana, you have good reputation with Theron, you have Veti with you in some instances. There's this entire story arc that all sort of links together really, really well, and I like the idea how all your decisions actually make an influence on the campaign, and that is why I feel that this chapter definitely takes number 10 on this list.
Number 9.
Coming up next on our list today with number 9, we have Chapter 1 of KOTET, which is Wrath and Ruin. Now, the reason I like this chapter as much as I do is because the Zakulian Empire invades the planet of Voss, and during this massive onslaught, you have a clan of Mandalorians who were following Shae Vizsla and decided they were going to help the Alliance in defeating the Eternal Empire threat. And the most, I think, badass scene in the entirety of KOTET has to be watching your character, the Alliance Commander or the Outlander, have to give an inspirational speech to the Mandalorians, and watching all the Mandalorians get all worked up and hyped, and they all just storm Voss and try and kill as many Eternal Empire soldiers as they can. On top of that as well, the story arc of course was on point, but I really enjoyed fighting various bosses, such as the PA-717 Planetary Assault Goliath. That was really cool, and on top of that, you have to basically try and fight off thousands upon thousands of Sky Troopers, and these Sky Troopers were much cooler looking than the KOTFE Sky Troopers. They had like the different armor sets, and I really enjoyed that. And of course, there were really awesome sort of wave defense mechanics you had to do, which I really did enjoy at the Tower of Prophecy. You have to basically fight off stronger and stronger waves, and on the harder difficulties such as Vet, it actually gets quite difficult. So because of that, I really have to say that this is one of my favorite chapters in KOTET, and will probably continue to be some of my most beloved and cherished content within the whole of SWTOR to date.
Number 8.
Next up on our list today, we have number 8, which is Knights of the Fallen Empire, Chapter 7, The Lady of Sorrows. The reason this takes number 8 on our list today is because, of course, Scorpio as a character is incredibly interesting. I really like her backstory in general. I like her origins on Bel Savis. I like how it leads later on into the Iocath expansion. And, of course, if you choose the light side option, she actually takes over Iocath, or you can just destroy her, and she can't take over Iocath, which is rather disappointing because, as a character, Scorpio is one of the most interesting characters in the game, from my opinion. On top of that, throughout this chapter, you fight interesting bosses, such as the two Zukulian Knights at the end, and before that, you actually fight the Heralds of Zildrog, and you have the option to fight this guy called the Exalted, and he's a really interesting boss in general. And throughout the entirety of the chapter, you get a feel for the planet of Zakul, which is a planet you don't really explore until this point, and you get to feel the underground and what Zakul is really like below the surface. And bringing that sort of realism to the planet definitely made it much more immersive for me personally, and because of that I feel that this chapter has earned number 8 on this list.
Number 7.
Coming up next on our list today, we have the concluding chapter to the Knights of the Eternal Throne. That is, of course, Chapter 9, the Eternal Throne itself. Now, the reason I enjoy this chapter so much is because of the final boss fight at the very end. You encounter both Vaylin and Valkorion. Both of them have a shit ton of knockbacks. It's good, but the thing you have to sort of bear in mind is it is a basic boss fight. It's a tank and spank, really. It does require a lot of skill because these knockbacks need to be interrupted or you'll get thrown off a cliff. But the whole walking through the void, getting to Vaylin, and then killing Valkorion is really engaging, especially if you have the Datacron from Nathema, because within that Datacron, you have Tenebrae's father, and Tenebrae's father, of course, versus Valkorion, is this really awesome, like, father-to-son conflict that we get with most Star Wars media. Of course, as you guys know, in episodes 4, 5, and 6, you have the whole Vader vs. Luke thing. It's definitely very traditional Star Wars, and that's why I liked the concluding to the KOTET campaign. On top of that, as well, in the story arc, you get to join up with the Alliance that then takes over the Eternal Empire, and you get to see this really awesome, I'd like to say, motivational speech, if you choose light side, where you get to see what's going on in the galaxy, how everyone's recovering from the war, and you get to see sort of how the Empire's doing, how the Republic's doing, how the Zakulian Empire's doing, and you get a general feel of the position of the galaxy, and it puts you in place. It makes everything much more immersed, and I really like how they concluded KOTET. I felt it was the perfect ending to the story arc, and that is definitely why this is number 7 on this list.
Number 6.
Taking the spotlight at number 6 today, we have Chapter 4, Where Dreams Die. This is part of the Knights of the Eternal Throne campaign, and the reason this has definitely made number 6 on our list today is because this is probably the most mysterious chapter of them all. I really like the backstory and emphasis on the planet of Iocath. Of course, you have the escalating plot from Scorpio leading to this ancient world. And when you arrive at the planet, the thing that really does stand out from my point of view is when you arrive in the gravestone, everything just changes. Your ship vanishes, you have no idea where it is, your entire crew's gone, and you wake up on the barren world of Iocath, which is basically this desolate landscape. There's a whole bunch of weird fauna and plants, and everything looks like it's basically been deserted for years and years. And you have this idea of what actually happened, but you can't really piece it together until you do the bonus objective, which is definitely something that stands out in comparison to most bonus objectives throughout the chapters. But during this bonus objective, you have to go up to these technoliths, which are like these pillar things that are in the ground. You click on them, and then they give you a codex entry. If you bother to read the codex entries, you actually find out so much about Iocath history, and you get this entire idea of the story arc behind what Iocath actually is and how significant it is in the galaxy. And I really like the emphasis to lore within this chapter. It definitely does make it stand out from my point of view, and I also like the fact that when you're going around, you have this conflict between not only the Knights of the Zakul, but you also have these Iocath bots and swarms of droids that you have to fight off, and it definitely does make it feel like the planet is in fact a threat, and it is quite intimidating. And because of that, I feel it has definitely earned 6th place on this list.
Number 5.
Next up on our list at the halfway point today, we have Chapter 14 of Knights of the Fallen Empire, and that is of course known as Mandalore's Revenge. The reason this takes number 5 on our list today is because, well, I think it's fair to say that all of us have been very optimistically looking forward to the return of the Mandalorians. Ever since the game's launch, they appeared, of course, in the Bounty Hunter campaign, and we saw them here and there on planets such as Drome and Kars, but now they actually have a fully fledged chapter dedicated specifically to Shae Vizsla and the unification of all the Mandalorian clans, or most of the Mandalorian clans. The reason I like this chapter a lot specifically is because, well, the Mandalorian story arc on Darvanis is to die for. It is remarkable. I love how you go around to all these different Skytrooper factories. It feels like it's a Mandalorian mix or a Mandalorian take on the Clone Wars, and the Mandalorians are the faction known as the Clones, and they're fighting the droids or the Siths. to try and eradicate them. But in this context, of course, it's the Star Wars: The Old Republic era, so it's the Sky Troopers versus the Mandalorians, and I love that sort of reference to the movies. It feels very at home in the Star Wars: The Old Republic universe, and if you got into the Star Wars era when I did, such as the prequel era, then I'm sure you can relate to this chapter quite fondly.
Number 4.
Coming up next on our list today is the honourable mention known as Chapter 13 from Knights of the Fallen Empire, which I'm sure most of you know as that chapter where you reunite with Vet, but it's actually called Profit and Plunder. Now, the reason that this is number 4 on our list today is because ultimately the plot is exceptional. I don't necessarily enjoy many of the boss fights throughout it. I don't really enjoy the wave defense they have with the droids further on, but mostly I do like the story arc. The idea of hijacking the Gilded Star, which is supposedly the ship that holds the majority of the Eternal Throne's valuables, and is sort of where Arkan keeps a lot of the wealth of the capital and of course the planet of Zakul. So it's like a trophy ship really, and the idea behind it is you, Galt and Vet, you reunite, work together to basically steal from them, and you do this by putting a bomb in the vault and blowing up the bomb on the ship, and the bomb there turns all the gold to dust, and then it goes into the vents, and then you take it and you steal it and fly away. That's the premise, but I really like sort of the plot behind doing a heist in SWTOR. It's something we haven't really seen before, and this unique story arc definitely stood out in comparison to other chapters, which is definitely why it's earned its place on this list. And as a very quick side note, the reason that this chapter actually stands out as well is because if you're a Sith warrior, you can of course further your relationship with Vet, and I really do enjoy that personally, because Vet's probably my favourite character out of a lot of them in terms of the Sith Warriors companions. So if you're a Sith Warrior, this is probably the ideal chapter for you. If you're another class, then I don't think it matters too much, but still I do think that it is best played as a Sith Warrior.
Number 3.
Taking the bronze medal on our list today, we have Chapter 2, Run from the Shadows, which is from the Knights of the Eternal Throne story arc. And the reason that I like this chapter specifically is because I love the entire plot around Empress Acina. I like her transition from the original Legacy quest involving the Dread Seeds to the now Empress of the Empire. And I do really enjoy the fact that you get to meet up with her, and you get to walk around the higher levels of Droman Cast and look down at the rest of the city, and you do get this sort of sense of immersion, because usually when you go to Droman Cast, you walk around, you grind the levels out, you do quests all on the lower level, and you look up at these skyscrapers and sort of wonder, what's going on up there? And this chapter sort of brings you to that level, you know, looking down on the city rather than looking up, like you've ascended and leveled up and had like a lot of progress in the game. And I like that feel, that sense of immersion. And on top of all of that as well, the plot with Empress Acina where you take the shuttle out, you crash and you have to fight various bosses such as the Vine Cat and the Jungle Beasts, all of which are very challenging, especially on the harder difficulties such as Veteran. I have friends who can't even do it on Veteran mode. And from there as well, once you defeat the Vine Cats, you have the Geo Harden, which are like the assassins, and you get a whole bunch of HK droids, and everyone loves the HK droids. So there is like tons of elements to this that I think are incredibly enjoyable. And on top of all of that, you know, like icing on the cake here, there are Mandalorian references all across the chapter. There have been like Mandalorian clans destroyed and diminished, overthrown by jungled creatures. All you have to do really is look around and observe the scenery, because this isn't just a chapter. This is like an extension onto Droman Cast. There's tons of stuff going on, and wherever you look, there's always something new. So I definitely recommend giving Chapter 2 a try if you haven't already, and that is definitely why it's actually earned 3rd place on this list.
Number 2.
Moving on now to our 2nd place spot, the silver medal goes to Chapter 7, Into the Void of the Knights of the Eternal Throne campaign. The reason I like this chapter so much is because actually I like the fixation on Valkorion and the ancient Sith magic he knows and is aware of, because throughout this chapter you are going to the planet of Nathema, you go to find Vaylin, and you go to find out all about her conditioning. When you get there, you find out that Valkorion has pushed this sort of conditioning on her, whereas she will respond to a certain phrase. The phrase is kneel before the Dragon of Zakul. Once Vaylin hears that, it's sort of like a trigger word, and she loses complete and utter control of her powers. And I really like that concept and the emphasis on Sith alchemy. Also, throughout this chapter, you get to go to Valkorion's personal vault, where you find out about Vitiat's father, Lord Drathma, and he is crazy in terms of his power and ability, and he was beaten only by Valkorion, bested by only Vitiat, and I find that really quite remarkable, how they have all this emphasis on old Sith lore. You find out so much about ancient Sith magic and Sith alchemy throughout this chapter, and the Codex entries as well are rather remarkable. I think honestly this is one of the best chapters in terms of narrative content. Following that as well, the boss fights throughout this chapter are rather intriguing. I like how you have to run away from the fog towards the end when you go to lock yourself in Valkorion's vault, and before that as well, there is a boss fight when you enter the temple on Nathema, and you have to fight a Zakulian knight or a zealot, and he is rather strong. You can cheese it by just force pushing him off a cliff, but he is still a rather interesting boss fight if you do it properly, and that is definitely why I think it's earned second place on this list.
Number 1.
Taking the gold medal on our list today, my all-time favourite chapter throughout the KOTFE and KOTET expansions is Chapter 8, End Times from Knights of the Eternal Throne. This chapter specifically really stands out for me because it is the Battle of Odessen. It is this huge war that ascends on the planet. You have the Eternal Empire invading, and you're having to basically run through the fray and pick up your companions. You get to reunite with everyone you've saved throughout the KOTFE and KOTET experience, and I really like that engaging aspect of you can save most of your team, and on top of that they make it realistic at the very end by giving you a choice of saving Vet or saving Torian, and depending on your character and how you went through the campaign, you get to choose who you want to save. Personally, as a Sith Warrior, I would save Vet, and still as the Agent, I save Vet, because I'm not a huge fan of Torian, but honestly, that sort of emphasis on characters is what brings Star Wars to life in general, and I feel this chapter summarizes that perfectly. On top of all of that as well, the PvE experience throughout this chapter is remarkable. I do enjoy running around as the Walker, destroying buildings and decimating groups of enemies. The Walker is a great idea, and I think it actually did improve KOTET when they came up with the idea. Following that as well, if you choose the light side options, you get Arkan and Senya following you around, and it's really awesome to see them unite and fall under the Alliance banner. It is great fun from that perspective, and that's definitely why it's earned first place on this list. So there we have it, guys, the top 10 KOTFE and KOTET chapters in Star Wars The Old Republic. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. I personally really enjoyed making this video, and I really enjoyed going through both the Empire and the Republic versions of KOTFE and KOTET on both light and dark. It was very interesting, and I did really enjoy the plot in general. So as I said, thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.